Fanatics. This is Alex Bryant coming at you once again with Fanatics 32 in 32, where I do 32 teams in 32 days as a power ranking countdown. So today we're at 21. Man, even I kind of like doubted myself for a bit. It's like maybe, oh man, 32 is like a lot, but we're at 21. So I mean, there's no way I don't finish now. There's no way I get to 21 and I'm like, I'm good. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Because honestly, I think the thing that would have kept me from like completing this is that the first couple were just so dull. It's just so hard to. I just want to be a negative person. I don't want to be negative, but when your team just doesn't have anything to be really excited about, it's just really hard to. It's hard. It's just really hard. It's that's all I got. But these teams are starting to be exciting because everybody from about like 26 on, you basically have a chance. There's 14 teams that make the playoffs. Like half the teams in the league make the playoffs. And then you think if each team has, 4 bubble people, 4 like just out, that's 8. You're 22. So I mean, all these teams can make the playoffs. It's not like me putting them at 21 means that they won't make the playoffs. It just means I don't think they are at. And also, outside of all of that, these teams are in the NFC for the most part. If you're in the NFC and in the 20s, you got a shot. The NFC is not good compared to the AFC. You could be the 8th best team in my power ranking and not make the playoffs based on just that's how loaded the AFC is. So they're also power rankings. They're not the standings. That's how I view this team as a whole versus the teams ahead of them or behind them. I had the Giants two shows ago, and I had them 6-11. Doesn't mean that I don't think that they're not better than teams that have 8 wins. It just means that that's how the schedule laid out, and that's kind of there's just more that goes into it. When you play teams, or you play them on the road or at home, there's so much that goes into it. So just because you're in my power rankings at a certain area doesn't necessarily mean I think that you're gonna be have the best record. So that's just like just know that. So when you get bent out of shape, everybody gets bent out of shape. You can be the number 1 team and just be like, oh, I'm the number 1 team, really? Shut up. So my 21st team is probably one I'm going to get really killed on, but it is the Minnesota Vikings. And they're sort of the same way. They're sort of the same as the Giants, where they just got a really good coach, came out of nowhere, and just outplayed their talent. And that's just it. Your coach is just really, really good. But before he came in, you were 8? What do I have? What were they? 8-8 and 7-9? Does that sound right? I had it written down somewhere. Oh, they were they were 7-9 and they were 8-9. And then they lost this year. You lose Dalvin Cook, who was one of your main players for years and years and years, and Adam Thielen. So you're kind of starting over while you're still competing. So your draft, you draft Addison, you draft another corner, you draft 2 corners, I believe. You just give up. Your entire secondary is gone, right? So you lose you lose Peterson, you lose Dantzler, you lose Boyd. You basically lose your entire secondary. You draft 2, and you bring in Byron Murphy from the Cardinals, I believe, right? Cardinals, is that where he came? Yeah, Cardinals. So you definitely are starting over there. You bring back Hunter, which is a really good signing. You bring in Lowry from the Packers, which I like that, where you not only make your team better, you make another team worse. And you brought in Davenport from the Saints, which I mean he's losing his production value, but it's still. I'm okay with vets coming in. I'm not okay with the Falcons was all vets. Your entire defensive line was all vets. You got to have some sort of mixture. You just have to have one guy that kind of is the leader and that is followed and that has been there and done that before. And then you have like the talent, the guys coming up that's learning from that vet. In my opinion, that's how I would build my roster. But I'm a nobody. Who cares? So the Vikings, O'Connell is very, very good. And so I do this whole thing like when people talk, listen, that's what look at the Cardinals coaching staff and the ones that would follow Gannon. Not strong coaching staff. Brian Flores said, I don't want the Cardinals head coach job, but I'll go to the Vikings and be his defensive coordinator. That says something. Brian Flores is a good coach, a really, really good coach, and could have probably coached almost at any open defensive coordinator job. He's probably a top 5 defensive coordinator in the league. He's that good. He's very, very, very good. And he said, I choose the Vikings. That's a strong statement. That is a very, very strong statement. So you get O'Connell, who comes from the Rams, the McVay coaching tree, which McVay's a great offensive coach. You bring the passing coordinator from there, and Wes Phillips, I think his name is Wes Phillips. Am I making that up? Yeah, Wes Phillips. He was a passing game coordinator and tight ends coach. So that's how Thomas Brown came up to be tight ends coach last year, and now he's offense coordinator for the Panthers. So you got a great coaching staff. I'm not worried about like coaching staff, and you have great players. Justin Jefferson is amazing. Hunter is really, really good. Addison, from all accounts, he's been great. You got TJ Hawkinson, who's a good player. You got players. You got really, really good players. Davenport, we'll see how much he can turn the clock back. Lowry from Green Bay, great. Phillips from Buffalo. I mean, you got players, but you also lost some guys. You lost Kendricks, you lost Thielen, and I think the Thielen loss is going to be, and not just because I'm a Panthers fan, but Thielen loss is going to hurt more than I think people think it is because he did a lot of dirty work. He ran a lot of routes that got Jefferson open, which is very. You need a special kind of person to continue to do that over and over and over again. To not get for a guy like Thielen, who's been a Pro Bowler, who's received touchdowns after touchdowns after touchdowns. They were scheming him to get Justin Jefferson open, mostly because Justin Jefferson is just better. Like he's just a better player, and that's you're doing it for the team. You're doing your job for the team. So I think they have good players. I think that they have a great coaching staff. I just kind of think that they have to start over a little bit. Madison's not Cook. Addison's not Thielen. You're just not. I think you're probably a year or two away from being very, very, very good. They could be right there, like in 2 years. I don't doubt that at all. I like what the Vikings are doing, and they might sneak into the playoffs. They might win the division. I think that the division is going to be very, very, very neck and neck. But I think that everybody hears the Vikings and they were like, oh, they were 13-4 last year. They were really, really good. So let's go through the schedule that they had last year. So they play the Packers at home first game, 23. They win 23-7. Then they play at the Eagles. They lose 24-7. They win at home against the Lions 28-24. They win at Saints 28-25. They win at home against the Bears 29-22. They're at Dolphins with Tua out. Teddy Bridgewater plays, and they win 24-16. They beat the Cardinals 34-26. They beat the Commanders at the Commanders 2017. They win at the Bills with that crazy play where Josh Allen fumbles the snap and they fall on it in the end zones and they win 33-30. They lose to the Cowboys 40-3 at home. They beat the Patriots at home 33-26. They beat the Jets at home 27-23. They lose at the Lions 34-23. They beat the Colts at home. That was a crazy game where they come back from 30 points down. It was like 33-0 or something wild. Like the Colts went out this insane lead, and they come roaring back against Jeff Saturday's Colts. And then they beat the Giants 27-24 at home. They lose the Packers 41-17 at Packers, and then they went at the Bears 24-13. So, big takeaway from that is they had cake schedule. They didn't play anyone. They played Saints, Bears, Cardinals, Patriots, Jets, Colts, Bears. Packers were bad last year. Commanders weren't great last year. They played Bridgewater instead of Tua. So, and they won a lot of those games by single digits. So, and a lot of that's coaching. It is coaching. It's just not. You're not going to always do that. And you kind of took people by surprise, kind of like the Giants did. First year head coach. It kind of not a lot of tape on you, what you're doing, what your scheme is. And you have Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen. And you only have one of those guys now. So you got to hope that your rookie gives you that same kind of production. So let's look at what I have for 2023. So I have them, Tampa at home is a win. They go to Philly. That's a loss. I actually have them beating the Chargers, which kind of makes sense they can do well. Man, I have them winning at home into Chargers. I might have to rethink that. But then I have them going to Carolina, losing. And then I have them losing to Kansas City. I have them losing at Chicago because Chicago was right there with them last year. I just think they can't beat them a third time in a row. So I have them losing at Chicago, losing to San Francisco, losing at Green Bay. Last time they played Green Bay won 41-17. So I have them losing at Green Bay. I'm losing at Atlanta because their defensive line isn't great, and I should have done that first. I don't think I did that. Let me do that when I finish this. And then I got them going on a win streak. They beat New Orleans at home. They go to Denver and they win. They beat Chicago at home. They go to Vegas and win. And then I have them, the big game will be at Cincy. And I think that's a loss because I think the Bengals are going to need wins late because of their schedule. And then they got at home to Detroit to win, at home to Green Bay to win. And then the big game in that division will be at the Lions. And because it's at Lions, I have the Lions taking it. So I have the Vikings going 8-9. But they're the bubble team, man. They can easily be 11-6. They can also easily be 6-11. It's those teams. It's just one way or the other. That they got a young secondary. They lost all their vets. They drafted guys, but they have Brian Flores. I like Brian Flores. They got good offensive coaches. Yeah, I like the Vikings. I don't love the Vikings. And I'm going mostly off of full roster. They got Justin Jefferson. He's amazing. Hawkinson's pretty good. Kirk Cousins pretty good. They got Daniel Hunter's pretty good. I mean, they got like above average players, but then a lot of unproven players. And there's so much changeover that I think it's just going to take a second. I think it's going to take a year. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. It means that they overperformed last year's, and like just like the Giants did. So let's go to PFF because I skipped over that. So we got PFF 25th best secondary. It could be worse than that because a lot of these guys are young and we just don't know. I probably would have it worse, but 25th is not great. Then you have the 17th best defensive line. We'll see. I mean, it's a whole new line. They got Lowry. They got Davenport. They got Phillips. They just got a bunch of new people. And then they got the 15th best O-line, which I'm also kind of like, do they? But it's about average. Yeah, I mean, sure, it's average. It's an average O-line. Okay. So you're average in the places where I think it matters, and then you got coaches that can scheme everywhere else. So they can manipulate points and they can scheme defensive game plans. I just think they're going to get out talented a lot, and they have tough games on the road. So, and I don't think that division's good, but I think that division's going to be more competitive. Like the Bears won't be terrible this year. They won't be easy wins this year. Detroit won't be Detroit, and everybody thinks that Love and the Packers got a good roster. They got a pretty good roster, and from all accounts, Love seems to be pretty good. So I'm this team lost to the Giants last year, and the Giants weren't, in my opinion, very good. They lost to the Giants in the playoffs 24-17. Their saving grace is that they're in the NFC, and anything can happen. They can sneak in. I got the seventh place team in the NFC going 9-8. I have the winner of this division going 9-8. So yeah, one win here or there, some injuries here or there. Totally, the Vikings can make the playoffs. It's and they're still. I still would think they were the 21st best team, but that doesn't mean you can't make the playoffs. That doesn't. Once you get in, anything can happen. People can get hurt. People could just go crazy and outperform. But I don't see a world. I mean, if Justin Jefferson goes down, good luck. What is out? Do we think Alexander Madison? Take all the running backs in the league. Is he bottom 5? I don't know if I can think of a in his division. You got Aaron Jones, Gibbs, and I guess Khalil Herbert. They got Roshan Johnson though. Who knows? Maybe, but yeah, he's in that like kind of Herbert area, Rashad White area of I don't know, like that's the guy. That's your guy. I I don't want to crap on him, but he might outperform, and he has before. We've seen flashes of him playing pretty well. I I just don't. I don't. I'm scared. I'm also really scared that Jefferson's production is going to go way down without Thielen. I just because I've watched a lot of Thielen tape, and I wish I could remember the guy that put it out there on Twitter and showing specific plays where they scheme Justin Jefferson open using Thielen. Like Thielen is very crafty and doing a lot of wide receiver screens, pick plays that that very savvy things that get Justin Jefferson open. So I think overall, I mean, your running back production is going to go down. Your wide receiver production is probably going to go down. You're playing better teams. The division is not better, but it's more competitive overall. But you got good coaches. You got good coaches. You got some talent. I think that more likely than not, they're going to be outside looking in than they are in that. Either they sneak in by winning the division or they sneak into the 7th seed is the only thing that I can see. But they weren't very good last year, and they went 13-4. It's NFL. Anything can happen. Well, not anything. Cardinals ain't making the playoffs, but a lot of things can happen, and we'll see. It doesn't mean I don't like the Saints. I just think they and here's a good point of what I was saying the last podcast was I just wish the Falcons knew who they were. They could look at their team and said, "We ain't competing this year, or we'll compete while we rebuild." So that's exactly what the Vikings are doing. Patrick Peterson was their best corner last year. Like, see you, man. We're gonna get younger. Dalvin Cook, by far better than Madison. See you, man. We're gonna get younger. Thielen, see you, man. We're gonna draft Addison. And we still got talent. We still can compete. But we see ourselves as being it's gonna be a 3-year build. Or 2 or 3 year build, right? So they'll probably draft a running back next year, or they'll probably most likely they'll draft somebody next year, or they'll sign somebody. Addison will have a year under his belt. Hawkinson's still pretty young. JJ's young. Kirk Cousins, may come off the books. They might draft someone else. They have a lot of options just by the sheer fact that they got younger. They got younger in these positions. Whereas the Falcons said, "Nah, we want all these old guys because we're going to win now. We're going to win. We're going to go 9-8 right now, and maybe win the division because it's probably weak." I like the Vikings next 5 years a lot better than I like the Falcons next 5 years because I think O'Connell's like, they ain't firing me. I'm a good coach, and Arthur Smith's like, I better win or I'm gonna get fired. So that's the difference between what makes teams. That's the difference. Yeah, that's the difference of what makes teams good for a long period of time. That's why Tomlin always he always has a winning record. He's like, yeah, I'm going to get Pickett. I'm going to get younger. And I'm going to still compete. Because this year, next year, the following year, we'll have a chance. We'll be right there. So I like what the Vikings are doing overall. I just don't think that this is the year that they compete. And I think that's fine. And I think they'd be fine with it as long as they compete. They're in these games and they give themselves a chance. I think that's what they want. But I don't think they think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. So that's my Vikings. I really appreciate you listening. I still don't have anything, guys. I'm going to stop trying to do this whole bye everyone or like little kind of thing. So thanks for listening. Bye. We had a good run.